Hi, this is 100 in 100, where we review 100 VR games in 100 days. Today we're talking about Overkill VR, one of the most intense VR military war fighting games in VR today. We're excited to share it with you, and we're going to jump right in. Our VR gear game reviews cover as much of the game as possible so that all the different aspects are covered. Our goal is to help you make an informed decision so that before you try it or buy it, you know what you're getting. Today we're going to jump right into Overkill VR and see what this game is all about. Overkill VR is a military war game that really tests your skills at aiming and shooting and avoiding, dodging the enemy's oncoming assaults. You're going to learn a lot about maneuvering in VR while playing Overkill VR. And we really enjoyed it, and we're excited to go deeper into it with you today. Overkill VR can be purchased from the Steam store, or it's part of your Viveport Infinity subscription where you can download and start playing right away. The game file is about 1.2 gigabytes in size, and that will take you about 10 to 15 minutes to download on a reasonably fast internet connection. The entire installation process will probably take you around 30 minutes, but once it's installed, it's ready to go and you can start the game up right away. Currently, Overkill VR is selling for $19.99 on the Steam store, and if you have a Viveport Infinity subscription, it's free there. The main menu when you get into the game is first a map where you select a location that you would like to be put into to start your military assault. Once you've selected the location where you're going to play military at, you then can select the weapons that you're going to carry with you into battle. There's about 20 to 30 different weapons that you can choose from, including ammo clips and grenades. Overkill VR is an action shooting game where you're going to spend a lot of time aiming and firing various weapons, reloading your ammo clips, and dodging oncoming assaults from the enemy. There's a lot of different scenarios that you'll find yourself in, and the enemies are not that easily overcome. So you're going to have to really learn how to master the different game inputs to succeed in Overkill VR. You'll play this game from the first-person perspective, and we actually really enjoyed the fact that you saw the entire player that you were playing the game as. You could see hands, arms, feet and legs, and you could also see how your hands and arms interacted with the weapons that you were holding. This was pretty refreshing because some games just skip all of that and will only represent your hands in VR, and the presence that you feel is shortchanged quite a bit. The theme and story of this game follows that of a military conquest, although there is no parallel to any wars that we know of. The map was fictitious with fictitious locations, and the characters were also fictitious. The entire thing was a fabrication and a story, but it was a story nonetheless, and it did a really great job making you feel like you wanted to take the next step in the mission, and to do so, you needed to beat the level that you were on. This game is war and fighting and military conquest. So we thought that the story and the theme were actually quite engaging, and it did make you want to come back and complete the next mission to unlock the next level. For a game that requires quite a bit of dexterity with your hands, the controls here were somewhat satisfying to have. Although there are some deficiencies and some shortcomings because of the way that the game expects you to interact, but it's not necessarily a realistic way to interact. Let me explain. In order to reload your gun, you can eject a clip from your weapon by squeezing the grip on the hand that's holding the gun. The clip will drop out, and a new clip will automatically appear in your opposite hand. It's easy enough to slide it back in. Now, when you're trying to aim the weapon, your controllers need to be lined up with each other. The game doesn't really do a great job of telling you exactly how to hold your hands, and the VR experience is broken immediately if your hands don't quite align. The gun begins flipping around, it aims at your face, it aims at the ground, and you end up just firing your weapon with one hand, while the game reminds you that you're more accurate using two. However, the controls were very intuitive in nature when you're firing the weapon, reloading the ammo. When it comes to accurate aiming of the weapon, we felt that there were some shortcomings there. But for a game that's about 2 years old now, we were really impressed with all the different controller input, and we think we'll just keep playing until we can master what's available. For music and sound, we thought that it was great when we heard some of the background music that added to the intensity of one of the battle scenes. And there were some sound effects that were coming from all the different weapons being used and the enemy coming, including some great spatial audio that allowed you to know which direction to expect some oncoming enemies, such as tanks or airplanes or helicopters. But one of the things that we didn't like was the script, apparently, that the enemy was yelling, because they kept saying the same few lines over and over again. The enemy's coming, look over here. The enemy's coming, look over here. And it got repetitive and really started to break the immersion and the reality of what we were experiencing. Of course, we knew it was fake. The player movement in this game was limited, but it was also freeform. And let me explain. Each progression through a level allowed you to pick one of two locations to teleport to. You could pick the red one, which means you're going to have a really difficult time. That's the higher difficulty location. Or the yellow one, which was an easier difficulty that you would fight from. Both of them would be in the same scene, but the difficulty would be different. Once you teleport to that, you would then fight the enemy. You would shoot at them and they would shoot at you. But you can't move from that location. You can't continue to teleport to position yourself better relative to the enemy. You're stuck in that spot until the level is cleared. While you're standing there, you can duck and lean and stand back up and shoot, but you can't re-teleport. So player movement was limited but freeform in the standing position. For motion sickness, this game had some interesting issues, and we're not sure if it had to do with the performance of the computer or if it had to do with the game design itself not being optimized, but we noticed that moving quickly with your headset resulted in some tearing of the scene, which caused some motion sickness. We have some pretty powerful hardware behind our VR headset, and none of the other games have had issues like this, so we'd like to think that perhaps the game has not been optimized properly, and there is some opportunity for improvement there. But the net result is motion sickness when you move too quickly in this game. For environment and immersion, Overkill VR is top notch. This is a really great game. I think a good way to determine if you're immersed or not is to see how many times you forgot that you're tethered to a computer in your VR headset. And we forgot quite often. We would duck down, feeling like we were in that environment, feeling like we were on the battlefield, and we would forget that we were even tethered to a computer. This game had some great graphics, great storyline, very convincing enemy interaction, and the weapons were a lot of fun to fire. All right, so let's look at the scorecard for Overkill VR, starting with story and theme. We're giving Overkill VR the high score of 8 out of 10. While this doesn't mirror any real-life war story that we're aware of, the writing is great, and the story that the game carries you through was very engaging. It made us want to come back. So an 8 out of 10 for story and theme. The controls of this game are going to get a score of 7 out of 10. The limitations that we experienced when we would try to change the grip on the gun or hold our hands at a certain distance away from each other caused us some frustration. But the input and the control interaction otherwise was pretty satisfying. So a 7 out of 10 is an appropriate score for the controls of this game. For music and sound, we are giving this game a score of 6 out of 10. There was some great background music that wasn't overbearing, and the sound effects were great. We did deduct some points because of the repetitive nature of the verbal communication and the commands that were being yelled by commanders. A 6 out of 10 is a score for the music and sound in this game. For player movement, we're giving this game a 5 out of 10. And that's about a middle-of-the-road score because we appreciated the fact that you could stand up and duck down and rotate, but it wasn't quite that enjoyable to be teleported to only 2 places on the battlefield, when in reality you would want to be able to pick where you're fighting from to give yourself a strategic advantage. And so a 5 out of 10 is what we're giving this game for player movement. Motion sickness in this game wasn't a real issue. However, the game has not been optimized for newer headsets, and as a result, there's a lot of tearing in the graphics, and moving quickly in this game resulted in some lag in the visuals, which caused some motion sickness. There's room for improvement here, but a 6 out of 10 is the score this game gets for motion sickness. For environment and immersion, this game did an outstanding job, and we're giving the high score of 8 out of 10. It's a great storyline, the audio was convincing, you felt like you were on the battlefield, and the speed and pace of the game was just right to make you feel like you were frantically fighting the bad guys. So 8 out of 10 for environment and immersion. All right, so Overkill VR. The Overall score that we're giving Overkill VR is a 6.6 out of 10. There's a lot of games that cost $20 in the VR stores, but very few of them are actually worth $20. This one we feel is worth the $20. We did access it as part of our Viveport Infinity subscription, but this game was jam-packed full of long, great experiences. And this has been 100 in 100, where we are reviewing 100 VR games in 100 days. Click the subscribe button and hit the notification bell so that you'll be notified tomorrow when we release another VR game review. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.